My name is Miqo'te, and welcome to the introduction of replica making. Sorry about the blue stuff. Replica making. Okay, sorry about that. So sorry about the blue stuff. I don't know why it comes up grainy like that, because obviously if you get close, see, I don't get why it goes grainy. Anyway, hi. So basically, I'm just going to cover all the basics to making replica weapons. I've always been, well, I guess it just comes down to I've always been interested in, like, replicas and make, or you play those games and you play video games like Halo or something, and you really think it would be cool to have like a replica of a thing, and you want to go into making them. Now, that's the way I was kind of, and I in high school I actually made metal weapons in my metals class, but that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and it's really kind of hard to do. So a little while later, I kind of wanted to get into it again, and I I found this guy on YouTube, and he did a lot of replica weapons using the insulation foam. So that's actually what I started doing, and I made quite a few. Not too much for me to be calling myself an expert, but I'm not really an expert. But I just kind of go with it. But basically, you go to any hardware store and you buy sheets, huge sheets, called insulation foam. And I mean, I go to two different places. I go to Lowe's and I go to Home Depot, and they actually have different kind of insulation foam. Like, you have this pink stuff. That's what I got from like Home Depot. It's a lot thicker. It's a lot thicker material. And it's actually a little bit harder. And then this blue stuff I got from Lowe's. Usually you can get huge, large sheets for like $30, and that's mostly why I use foam. It's not exactly breakable. I mean, you can break it easy, but it's not to a point where you'll be breaking weapons left and right. So I guess I should just go with. So you can turn weapons. I got a few I haven't really painted, like this, kind of a sword. It's from Final Fantasy 9. And then after painting, this is where weapons pop out, is when you paint them. So I made the plasma pistol from Halo. Now, I didn't record any videos, but it's pretty cool looking replica. It's actually the first one I really tried. And I actually didn't do it on my first try. I actually made like the top half of the gun, and then I scrapped it and completely made it again. But anyway, so I guess I should start this explaining the process of making these things. Well, usually you have to pick what you're gonna make. Whether it's a gun, it's a sword. You can even make armor. I've made armor out of the weapons. I wouldn't recommend armor with this foam, but you can make pieces and stuff. But usually obviously pick your weapon. And then after you pick your weapon or whatever, you need lots of reference pictures. I would get the legit reference pictures you get from online or from the game. Like, for instance, let's go with Cloud's Buster Sword. So I made the Buster Sword. I actually have it right here. Kind of a beast, really. Move this. So I actually cosplay as Cloud to cons, but so what I did is for the Buster Sword, I went to the original source, which is like the anime or the game. So for instance, for that one, I watched the Advent Children movie. It has a lot of good references in that. I also pulled up, and then I would go to the original source because you can make them like legit, like to the T what they were designed to be. And then I actually looked up a lot of other people's replicas and see what kind of how big they made them, kind of what they made them, and kind of compare yourself to them. Like you can get a lot more like details that you wouldn't get from the game and anime, or like the movie. The movie I really had a hard time because it didn't really show that many angles when you're going into it. So start with legit material and then move on to like other people's replicas and other fan art and stuff like that. And then after you do that, then what I do is I size them by the person's height and stuff. So like when you're doing a sword like this, kind of make it to your size, I should say. Like you can make a legit size, I guess, if you want to, but I usually do it by my size. So I usually get like a picture. I should probably pull up one, but a picture of the person holding the weapon, and I would just take them. All right, so like I'm 5'10", so you go. All right, this is going to be 5 foot 10 inches, and then you base your height off of the weapon's height. And usually I use some kind of paper. What I did is I get this stuff. So this stuff you can it's just paper. If you got any stuff you can like see through, that would be better. But I would get something like a lot of something, so it's really cheap to do, so you're not wasting a lot of money. But tracing paper would be better than this. But I get this so I can just lay it out, and if it's wider than this, which this is pretty wide for most weapons, but if it's wider than this, just tape it together or whatever. So usually I just freehand my weapons onto a piece of paper. The reason you want to do that is you don't want to be tracing on the foam, because when you're tracing on the foam, it's just really hard to draw on foam, and you don't get that details, and then you're erasing a lot. So that's kind of what I do. If you don't want to freehand your weapons, what you want to do is you want to print out legit pictures. If you have some kind of program like AutoCAD or something, you can actually make them legit to like the legit length and the legit size that they would be. But that's a lot of like program. I want to get into that, but I didn't. I just freehand my stuff to my size. So anyway, after you do that, I actually have one of my blueprints left over. So another thing that's nice about keeping your blueprints they're basically blueprints, about keeping those is after you cut up your material, you can use them as a reference, because not all the weapons are just like one shape. Like they have multiple layers to them. They have a lot of details. You want to keep going back to those blueprints that you draw up for kind of a reference. So I made this. I actually have a video of this on my YouTube right now, but I made this weapon. It's a brainer from Resident Evil, over their new game, but it's not a very popular game. But anyway, I had the blueprints right here. They're kind of destroyed a little bit, but so what's nice about this is you can keep going back. You can keep laying it down and going back and getting like the details and stuff like that. So it's really nice to hold on to your blueprints. But then after that, then you're kind of just freeballing it. You're kind of just working out the weapon, and maybe I should get a reference picture. One sec. I'll get a reference. Okay. Oh wow. Let's just make me smaller. Come on there. So this is I think it's an AR from Halo, but basically you'll get a picture like this, and what you want to look at is kind of where the layers are, because you want to do the bottommost layer first. So right here you can see, I don't know if it's going to record my mouse, but right where the gun is, all that black stuff is actually smaller in depth than the silver parts. and even those triangles that you can see, those are going to be in the weapon. So what you want to do is you want to do layers. So like with this weapon, with the triangles you see, I would do a layer that's flat, and then I would do a layer that's triangles. You can cut them out, and then you can just put that layer on there. It's going to make them a lot neater than having just you're not taking the material and carving away. That's what a lot of people will first try, and you're going to find out it's really hard to get little smooth lines. You're going to find it's really hard to just get a good product out. So you want to layer. You want to layer. But with swords and stuff, with swords with like blades, that's okay. That's what you want to do is you want to make it, and then you want to cut or get the smoothness going on it. That's fine. That's when you're gonna be taking away from the material. But when it comes to like a lot of guns and weapons will have a lot of layers on them. So that's kind of what you want to do. Let's get rid of this. So that's just about it. Adding like LEDs and stuff, that's going to be all up to you. That's going to be how much work you want to do. Which is fine by me, I've actually added a lot of other stuff, like going back to the plasma pistol. I actually added some. This was like a stopper that I added. These are actually batteries. I wanted to get a nice circle, and I couldn't get it. I probably could have done it better now that I'm a lot better at making this stuff. And then I also wanted to make this hollow and put like a plastic see-through thing, put LEDs in it so I could get the blue. But I kind of went just easy. But it's really all up to how much work you want to do, and it's kind of like figuring out a puzzle. It's like how would I make this? Because honestly, there's no training on this. There's just making the weapon. You kind of have to have a little bit of creativity in it. And so I actually had a plastic disc that I cut out for this. I never got to it, but I was going to put the details of the overheat thing that the plasma pistol had. But other than that, I thought it worked out pretty well. But anyway, so the stuff you'll need. So you'll need the foam. The foam, like I said, they come in 30 freaking huge sheets, like wall size sheets, because that's what they're used for. They're used for insulation for your house. But after you get that there, my car is small, so I usually break them apart, put them in the car. But if you have a truck or something, getting that home is pretty easy. Then after that, then you're drawing up your things, and then you're laying them on the foam, getting the shapes all cut out, and then after that, cutting them. Now, I started with these are the blades you want to use. They're like the break apart blades. So you can see the edges on them. These are what you want to use, because what's nice about these is you can get them any length you want. So if you want to just carve in small, or you want to take out large chunks, the blades are really cheap. I can usually buy packs of them for a couple bucks. But get yourself a good blade, because I've actually broken a lot of these. As you're going, I don't know. Sometimes you get pretty rough, so they'll break. What's nice is you can break off the blades, and then they'll be sharp again. So one blade can cut a lot of material. This is what I started with, but then I started getting into hot wire cutters. Hot wire cutters. They're a tiny little wire, and you usually plug them in something like this, and then you plug that in the wall, and then this will get really hot, and it will just go through fabric like nothing, or not fabric, styrofoam. You want to be in a well insulated room, because this does, when it's melting the styrofoam, it does do a little bit. I think it's toxic. I don't know. It's not good for you, for sure. But once you, but yeah, so this is pretty nice. But these are a little bit more expensive than just the blades. And this is what I would start out with, because even though I'm using that, there's some things a blade can do that won't. Like with this, when you're going through your material, it it sometimes will bend down and it'll be not smooth. Like this is really good for carving quick things, and then you take the blade and you get them all smooth lines. Like this will do it smooth, but doing it straight's really hard. They also have hot wire tables that you can just kind of move your stuff around. I would probably look into that if you want to get into this kind of stuff. But just doing it casually, I definitely would just do blades. But then, yeah, after that, you're just making your stuff. You're gluing. I use hot glue. Hot glue is amazing. It's really cheap. Again, you kind of want to do cheap when you're doing this thing. Oh, and another thing is, if you're doing this for cons or like carrying around or Halloween costumes or whatever you're doing, if you're holding on a weapon and using for armor, you want to be really lightweight, and that's what this is really good with. This stuff is really light. Like my sword. Go show you my sword again. It's really freaking light. Like I'm holding this one-handed, and it's a really lightweight. I get a lot of people that walk up to me at cons, and they'll be like, "Whoa, how much does that weigh?" And I'm like, "It weighs this much." And I hand them the weapon, and they pick it up, and they're like, "Whoa, this is really light." And that's kind of what you want, especially at a convention. Even the shuriken I started, it's freaking light, like nothing. And like I said, they're kind of durable. Like this stuff isn't gonna break that easy. Like you still have to be kind of careful with it. Like with this, since this is so thin, yeah, I'm definitely gonna want to be careful with that. But like, especially with all the parts that you like, because this is kind of what the glue looks like when you're layering stuff. But I'm gonna curve this, so it's gonna look pretty nice. But especially parts that you have all glued, like that's the kind of bend you get out of it before breaking it. So it's still pretty good. But I mean, it's not the same as wood or metal. But again, it's really easy to it's really malleable, like really easy for you to work with. So that's why I always suggest foam to a lot of people. And they're like, "Oh, I don't want to do foam." Well, it's up to you, but it's cheap and it's really easy to work with. So that's why I go with it. So yeah, I mean, you can get glue guns from any store, like probably $20 for the glue gun, max. I don't know. And then you get a bunch of glue sticks, and you don't go through glue sticks that much. On this, I probably went through like one stick, maybe two. Buster Sword went through a lot though, because it's a lot bigger weapon. And then after that, you use paint. Now you don't want to use spray paint, because spray paint it will actually eat through your foam. Like I cut out a triangle just to test it out, and I sprayed it with a bunch of gold spray paint. It completely melted it flat. Like this piece was like this thick, and it completely melted it flat. Like you don't want to use spray paint. I use this kind of paint. I got it from Walmart, but pretty cheap. I think one of these are like $2-3 or something like that, and you can usually get a lot out of it. And you only really want to get enough coats on it that it it gets its color. And so for like my plasma pistol, where did I put that thing? Oh, right here. So my plasma pistol, I actually had to mix in some paints to get that covenant purple, so you get that blue purple look to it. But I use all shiny stuff so far for my weapons. Oh, this was a matte black, so I painted with matte black. But all of my paint are usually this paint, so this is the only paint I've actually ever worked with. But yeah, after that, I mean, it's pretty simple. Now, there's one other thing I use, because when you're making your weapons, it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and I always do. Especially with the Buster Sword, like you'll glue down something, and maybe it's not exactly flat what I use, And I've tried to fill it with glue, but the thing with glue with this is if your hot glue gun gets too hot, it'll actually melt. Like, look at that. It'll actually just melt through your stuff. So what I use is spackle. Is I use this stuff. So what this stuff is, it starts with pink. It starts pink. I actually haven't even used any of this stuff. But it starts pink, and when it dries, it completely goes white. So it's kind of nice to know when it's dry and stuff. So what you do is it's kind of gooey. So what you do is you just get that on the places that you want flat or smooth. Let it dry, and then you can paint over that. So that's actually what I use, because like I said, you're not going to get you're going to mess up a lot when you're carving through. It just happens. But and then yeah, I'm going to be using a lot of that stuff on this. But I like that it dries white, so you know when it's dry, when you can paint over it and stuff. And yeah, other than that, that's about it as far as making stuff. Like I said, I like to make things without adding too much randomness to it, but some things I do, like the batteries with the plasma pistol, my sword, the handle there, I actually put fabric around it. So I wrapped fabric around it, glued it down, so it's really nice to hold, because as you're holding icon, you don't want to hold like a I shoved a PVC pipe in it, and then I glued the crap out of it. So, and then I wrapped it in fabric, because you don't want to be holding. I don't. I'd rather be holding fabric than this foam, because sometimes the paint dries, but sometimes I don't know, it just feels weird. I guess it's fine, but anyway, that's anything else? I think that's about it. But yeah, I also use when you are marking on your foam, like on reference points or just where you want to mark, I use highlighters. I used to use permanent markers, but highlighters are nice because they'll show up on your foam, but they won't like, they're easy to paint over without a dark line. So this will make it so you can barely see, but not to a point where it's going to ruin your project. And yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. It's really up to like creativity and what you can do with the foam you use. Oh yeah, I did mention other foam. I'll probably be doing I need to work with it a lot more to get used to it, but for my cloud outfit on my belt, I actually use EVA foam, which usually is like the jigsaw type pieces that you put on the bottom of garage, or like the rollout mats for like yoga and stuff like that. That's a different kind of foam that a lot of people will use for armor. And what's nice about that foam is it is really tough. It's meant to be tough, but you want to buy the yoga mat thin sheets, because that stuff will it'll be durable. You use like a heat gun, aka a blow dryer. You can shape it and then glue it down. A lot of people use epoxy. I've seen people use hot glue. So anyway, I'll probably cover that in a little bit. But anyway, that's about it for foams, or making stuff out of foam. But anyway, stay tuned. I'll be doing a lot more weapons on my YouTube. But anyway, until then, my name's D-Man Yuki, and I'll see you later. See, that one had a little bit of the exit and entrance on it, but that's okay. It's not too bad. It's not bad at all. Okay. So we're pretty much almost done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a reference line for where the blade should end, and then carve the blade. And then I'm going to wait to glue these till I get the gun part. But yeah, other than that, it's just painting it. So let me just draw my lines real fast. So for the blade, you want the blade. I'm pointing at the picture here, but you want the blade on the blade. The blades